Hi, thanks for joining us online. We're always so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you, whether you're a regular here at LBCC, or maybe you're a fellow follower of Jesus Christ, or someone looking to learn more about Jesus and Christianity in general. Well, as a church, our aim is simple. First, we want to connect you to Jesus. He is the God who is the source of all life and goodness. And when you're connected to Him, your whole life will change. And when you connect to Him, you'll find that He wants to connect you to others, which is our goal too. You see, community is God's idea. We didn't come up with it. It's right there from the beginning of the story of Scripture. Secondly, we want to help you grow. Grow as a whole person. We want you to grow in your faith, obviously, and have a dynamic relationship with God through Jesus. But we want to see you grow in every aspect of your life. And part of that growth is when you join others on the journey of faith. There's something that happens when we work together, play together, and do things together that causes us to grow in relationship. And finally, we want to help you find ways to invest your life, to be part of something bigger than yourself. You see, we were never meant to have life just be about us. It's really about learning to find a way to be part of something where you can impact the lives of others, whether it's your family at home, the people you work with, in your neighborhood, your town, or your city. We really want to see you get invested and impact your world. Now, we hope you'll be encouraged by today's sermon, but first there's some information coming up here on upcoming events. Please look around our website, check out our YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll get to meet you sometime soon in person. God bless you, and may God's best be for you.
Thank you again for joining us online. Here are some of the ways you can connect, grow, and invest at LBCC. We host breakfasts for women and men on the second and fourth Saturday mornings of every month. You can sign up at lbcovenant.org/welcome/upcoming-events. Also, check out our life groups, a great way to meet and get to know us better. Some meet in person, others on Zoom either weekly or a couple of times a month. Of course, visit our website or call the office at 732-870-2028 to get info or ask for prayer. We'd love to help you in any way we are able. Now here's today's sermon.
Well, if you're a guest with us this morning, you haven't been with us, this is our sixth week in looking at this series, Jesus in the Secular World by Steiger International. And it's a terrific series that we've been looking at that helps us prepare ourselves to share our message into a world that's much different than the church. And so what we've been doing is I'm going to share for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to today do a short recap of what we've looked at so far. And then we're going to break into our four groups and go and discuss the video together. And if you're a guest with us today, just see me and I'll get you into a group. So what we're trying to do this year is very simple. We want to pursue God and we want to pursue His purpose. Pretty simple stuff. And in pursuing His purpose, the thing we needed to remember is that He came to the earth that people would have life and have it abundantly. That God so loved the world that what? He gave His Son. And then Jesus says to the disciples in chapter 20, I believe it is, of John's Gospel, He says, "As the Father has sent me, so I have sent you." And so it's very clear. Our mission is to carry out His mission, to bring this great news to the world around us. And this series has been helping us learn some of the things, perhaps get some of the perspective that we need to have. The first video was very simple. It was open your eyes, open our eyes. We needed to be able to see the world as it really is. Jesus told His disciples, lift up your eyes and see that the harvest is there. Now, if you turn on the news, it doesn't sound like the harvest is there. If you listen to most of the media and even social media, it doesn't seem like people are hungry. But the truth is, when you start engaging people, you find out people, like the song we sang this morning, people do indeed have longing hearts. Their hearts long for something. And probably at the center of that is hope. because the culture we live in is not filled with hope. So we want to open our eyes and see that. What you'll find when you begin to connect with people is you find out God's already been working in their hearts. God's out there ahead of you. The Spirit is out there ahead of you. And so the next thing we were reminded is that we should pray like we've never prayed before. We need to pray serious prayer, not, oh Lord, help us, but Lord, this challenge that's in front of us is way too big for us. We need it, we don't want to do it in our strength. We want to do it in your power. And so we want to pray like we've never prayed before. Thirdly, we looked at a video that talked about changing our hearts. That we don't want to be trying to reach people and tell them about Jesus because, well, it's your duty. You're a Christian. You're supposed to do that. Or you feel guilty about this or that. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people try and, basically anybody in Russia that was going to hell was my fault. But guilt isn't the message. The thing, what we saw and what we're reminded of is that the heart of God is that He loves the world. He loves even those who reject Him because He sent His Son for them. And so we looked at the parable of the lost sheep, and we remembered that the good shepherd goes and gets the lost sheep. And we need to imitate Jesus that way. Then fourthly, we realized we need to learn to speak their language. We need to understand what people mean and the terminology they use. Just like if you were going to go to South America next year and be a missionary, well, you'd either need to learn Portuguese or Spanish, right? And if you don't speak it, you're going to be hamstrung in being able to minister to people in that culture. We've even seen the challenge just with sharing a building with a Brazilian church, and that the better we can communicate, the better we can build together. How much more if you're trying to share the most important message anyone's ever heard. And then finally, last week, we looked at a video called Show Them, Then Tell Them. And it was about having integrity between the words that we say and the lives that we live. So when we say it, if they know our lives, it'll make sense to them because they see the way we live. Or if we say it and they don't know our lives and then they begin to look at us, again, there'll be integrity there. There won't be, he says one thing and he lives a different way. He tells them how much Jesus has changed his life. Let's let them see a changed life. But we do need to tell them. So this morning, what we want to look at is about assumptions that we can make and how we need to learn some things to, well, what you're going to see is you're going to see a video that sounds like an endorsement for Ray Sierra Ministries. Because what he's saying is that everything that we've been privileged to learn from Ray over these last 10 years or so is what the whole church needs. And that was very encouraging to me. So let's look at this. Oh, they're going to show it up there. That's right. Because mine it would play right this morning, but it wouldn't give a sound. Go figure.
There was a time in the West where most people viewed life through a Christian lens. I could go onto the streets and ask the major questions like, how did life begin? What is the purpose for us here? Who decides what's right or wrong? Or where do we go when we die? And most people would give a Christian response. It's not that everybody was living this out, but this was the lens through which they viewed life. But what about today?
How do you think we all got here? How did life begin?
It started with the Big Bang. I don't really know much more than that.
So I believe in evolution and that we evolved from primates. I mean, there's proof that our DNA is 98% the same as chimpanzees, so.
What is the purpose of life?
That's a
Let me know when you figure it out.
yeah. I'm still working on that one.
To find it, make your own. Like, I don't think there's no like grand purpose for anybody. Just like and everyone, it's there is no purpose. Make up your own purpose, run with it.
So how do you think that right and wrong are decided?
I don't know. I think it's different for like everyone, depending on like what they think is right and wrong. Because like people believe in different things, so it can't be the same for everyone.
That goes back to like your morals, I guess. It like because your right can be someone else's wrong, so it's all like based on your morality. I take it like.
What do you think happens after we die?
I don't know. I mean, isn't that kind of the beauty of it? You know, there's a lot of people who are spiritual and have things in which they believe in, and so it's kind of a manifest of what you believe. I also feel like that is subjective because no one knows, and so I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Nothing happens, and hopefully you lived your best life, and if there is an afterlife, hopefully I live within the boundaries and make it there, you know what I mean? So
I'm not entirely sure, actually. It's not something I really like thinking about often. Yeah. What difference does it make, really? I mean, at some point I'm gonna have to, but I mean, just live your life now, I guess.
I think we need to realize there is a large and growing gap between the secular mindset and the church world. And I think we've been too slow to realize this. Too often the church is answering questions people aren't asking or speaking in a language that the world doesn't understand. We can no longer have a mindset that the Bible says it and that settles it. Instead, we need to ask some deeper questions. We need to take a step back from our assumptions. Ask questions like, what is truth? How can we decide what's right or wrong? Why can the Bible be relied on? Who was Jesus? So why is this so important? Well, the main reason is to defend our hope. It says in 1 Peter 3:15, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect." The secular perspective, if properly understood and lived out, is incredibly bleak. Just listen to the words of famous atheist Richard Dawkins. He said, "The universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect. If at bottom there is no design, no good, no evil, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference." This is an honest atheist who understands the logical conclusions of secularism. The Christian worldview, by contrast, is incredibly hopeful. The atheist would say naive or wishful. Neither of these things it is, but it is hopeful. Kayla Mueller was an American human rights activist who in 2013 was captured and killed by ISIS. In a letter that she had written to her parents before dying, she said, "I find God in suffering. I've known for some time what my life's work is, using my hands as tools to relieve suffering." Secularism simply cannot give you that kind of hope in the midst of such intense suffering. And what Peter is saying is that when we are able to be so resilient, when we're able to face difficulties like this, people around us should notice. The Christian worldview gives its followers incredible capacity to deal with suffering, because life is not meaningless, and God is not far away. And far from being indifferent to our pain, he actually entered into our suffering, infusing it with incredible meaning. By contrast, secularism leaves people completely bankrupt in the face of difficult times. They simply do not have an explanation for how someone like Kayla could suffer so well. And what Peter is saying is that people should notice the hope that is in us, that there should be something different about the way we endure hard times, the way we deal with life, and that this should speak loudly to a bankrupt secular world. But here's the key: we need to be prepared. It doesn't just come naturally for us to defend our hope. This requires some learning. Now you might be thinking, aren't apologetics just for academic types? I don't really like to argue or debate. I'm not sure that this is for me. But the reality is Jesus was an apologist. He could have ended any argument with an overwhelming display of supernatural power, but he didn't do that. He modeled for us what it is to be patient with people, to take the time to understand their mindset and to engage with them. And the Apostle Paul was a brilliant apologist. It says in Acts 17:17, "So he reasoned in the synagogue with both the Jews and the God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace day by day with those who happened to be there." Paul demonstrated for us just how important it is to know the people that you're trying to reach. It says that he would be in the marketplace, ready to speak to anyone who happened to be there. And this was a time of incredible religious diversity. People believed in Judaism and Eastern religions and paganism. And there was Paul reasoning with them all. When he was with the Jews, he spoke from the law. When he was with Greeks, he spoke from philosophy. Paul modeled for us how critical it is to be an effective apologist, to know and understand the secular mindset and how to engage it. So how do we do this? Because it can seem like an overwhelming task. The first step is for me to really care. It's so easy to have a superficial understanding of my faith, but I need to take the time to truly understand what I believe and why I believe it. After that, I need to take the time to understand what other people believe and why they believe it. The next step is for us to learn, because there is so much that we do need to know. But the good news is there are brilliant resources, books and videos and podcasts, things that you can use to equip you to understand your worldview and the worldview of those around you. After that, we need to try, because ultimately all learning is about trying. And the good news is you're not going to know all the answers. And good apologetics has far more to do with listening than talking. If we would go out and we would ask questions, we'll often find that we don't know the answers. But that's okay. Go back, look it up for yourself, strengthen your faith, and come back to that conversation. It's not about having everything right. And it's not about having all the answers, but we do have to care, we do have to learn, and we do have to be willing to try. And then ultimately, we can't forget the two most important words in 1 Peter 3:15, gentleness and respect. This isn't about winning arguments. It's like Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13:1, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Far too much of apologetics is a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal, not motivated out of love, but rather a demonstration of all the things that we know. The true purpose of apologetics is helping people see the cross. As Ravi Zacharias says, apologetics are not the cross, but they're the shears that remove the bushes that obscure the cross. And that's ultimately what we're after, those moments when people finally and for the first time truly consider who Jesus is. One time I was in Ukraine with my band No Longer Music, and we performed our show and preached the gospel. And afterwards I went out into the crowd to talk to some people. And I came across two guys. One was an artist and the other a physicist, both very bright, very curious, but neither of them said they responded to the gospel that night. So I started to ask them some questions about origin, life, and how we got here. And despite my best efforts, it was not going very well. And then one of the guys turned to me and said, my main problem is there's so much about God I do not understand. Why is it that here in Ukraine we have so little, while in America you have so much? Why does God do things like this? And I said to him, I have a son, he's 2, and there's so much about what I do that he doesn't understand. And that's just the gap between a 2-year-old and a grown man. Imagine what a gap must exist between humanity and an all-powerful, all-knowing God. I wasn't sure how they were going to react, but then Sasha, one of the guys I was talking to, said, that makes sense. I can understand that. And after that, I was able to explain more clearly who Jesus is, and I was able to pray with both of them. That's ultimately what apologetics is, giving people an opportunity to meet Jesus. The secular world is beginning to experience the devastating consequences of its worldview. And as followers of Jesus, we need to be there, concerned, prepared, and willing to defend our hope.